In this lesson, we're going to look at linear equations in the form of y equals mx plus b. Now, y equals mx plus b is kind of our usual form for linear equations because it allows us to see all the variables, the x independent variable, the y dependent variable, as well as the slope and b, which is called our y-intercept. Now, just to make sure we know which is which, this is my y and x, and the linear equation expresses how these two interact together. So how is y affected by the x? So in this case, it's affected by the slope, m, and also where it hits that y-axis, that y-intercept, which is b. Generally, m and b, no matter what kind of value they are, we try to keep them either as whole numbers or as fractions. We rarely ever see them as decimals unless when we're talking about slope, we're talking about a rate of change. Then we take it and break it down to a decimal. Now, when we talk about y equals mx plus b, there's kind of two changing situations. Now, the first one is if I have a graph. And from this graph, I just want to identify the slope and the y-intercept. Because once I have those two pieces of information, I know the equation of this particular line. Now I take a look at the line, and I'm trying to look for a point where the line goes right through it. So there's a couple points. Like one of them is right here. That's one point. And there's another point here that's actually hitting the y-axis, so that's a good point to have. And there's another one which hits the x-axis, which is another really, really good point to kind of identify, especially for future lessons. So first I want to figure out the slope. So my first point, I want to identify one point, and I look here and I have it's -1, -2 up here, so it's -2 on the x-axis, and it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the y. So I've identified one point for this line, and point 1 is going to be -2 and 6. Now the second point is right here on the y-axis, so it's 0 and 1, 2, 3. So my second point, 0 and 3. So already this is the y-intercept. So it's good to pick up right away. Since I have 2 points, I can find my slope via this equation, y2 minus y1 equals 4 over x2 minus x1. So this is my x1, y1, x2, and this is y2. This guy right here, my y-intercept. So I have 3 subtract 6, and here I have 0 subtract -2. Because I have a negative and negative, this is going to become positive. So in the end, I'm going to have 3 minus 6, -3 over +2. And this makes sense. If you look at it, I'm going down 1, 2, 3, and then over to the right positively 2. 1, 2 to get to that next point. So I've identified my y-intercept, and it's +3, and my slope. So overall, I can break down the equation. Y is equal to the slope, -3 over 2x, and I have a +3 y-intercept right there. So I figured out my equation for this red line going through here. Now the other form is to take an equation and then graph the line. So now I have y equals 2 over 3x plus 4. So the first thing I want to do is I want to establish one point on this line. And the easiest way to do that is just to look at my b right here, my y-intercept. which is going to be 0 and positive 4. So go to my y-intercept, 1, 2, 3, 4, right here. So that is my first point. I also now have my slope. My slope is rising 2 and running 3. Both are positive. So from this single point here, I'm going to go up 2, 1, 2, and then I'm going to run 3. 1, 2, and 3 right here. Once I have 2 points, I can make a line. So here, I have my 2 points. I can make a line kind of in green and trace right here. Again, at home, please use a ruler, but I made my line right there. So I've been able to take the information from my equation and graph it, or take the information from a graph and make an equation.